Dan Perry here with another Dan on Tech Active Directory video for Northeast State Community College. Most domains are going to be a single tree forest, meaning that there is only one namespace or set of namings in there. And in fact, most domains are going to be not only a single tree forest, but they're only going to have a single domain. Now, when you create your domains, the first domain you create is called the forest root. The forest root really is the main domain in the entire forest. It houses what we'll find out later are called operation masters. There's some parts or some things in the Active Directory database that is in this first domain, and not only the first domain controller, or DC, houses all those operations masters. So we start with a forest root, and then in a single tree forest, we would have domains connected to that forest root, and they all have the same namespace. What I mean by the same namespace is the first part of the domain, and when we're talking about domain naming, the first part of the domain is really what's to the right. They would both, in this case, be .local and then the my domain. So to be part of the same tree, they would all have to be part of my domain.local. So if these other domains, subdomains, have the same namespace of my domain.local, they're part of the same tree. And then the difference in them, we've got a Tennessee and our TN and an AZ for Tennessee and Arizona. So in our single tree forest, we create our first domain. That becomes the domain root, and that first domain controller, that first server acting as a domain controller, is actually by default the operations master for the entire forest. If we're in a single tree and have multiple domains, then they all have the same name or top level portion of the name, in this case my domain.local. Now if you have, and let me erase these lines, if you have a domain with multiple trees, you still, when you create your domain controller, or rather your first domain in the forest, a brand new forest, that first domain still is the forest root. And it can again have, if necessary, it can have subdomains under it. It doesn't have to. But to create a second tree in the forest, the top level portion of the domain or the domain name would be different. So in this case, your domain.local, if it's in the same forest as my domain, means that it starts a separate tree and it can have subdomains under it. So we can have as many trees as we want. We can have as many subdomains under that. And if we need to, we can even have subdomains under subdomains. So I could have under the Arizona domain, I could have a phoenix.az.mydomain.local. And that tree can get very large if you're a very large company. With most companies, it's not. Most companies are small and they're single tree forest, and they may have a few subdomains, but not very many. In a future video, we will discuss how we make decisions on creating subdomains, why we might create subdomains, why we might choose to work in a single domain. Thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video for Northeast State Community College. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos.